Welcome to a More Beautiful World podcast with Susyn Renee, a place for those of us with the desire to expand our consciousness, tap into higher vibrations of love, and to connect into a community where together we can make the world a more beautiful place. I'm so eager to share with you what I've learned on my journey in discovering how we're all connected and how what we do for one, we do for us all. Here, I'll be sharing my own experiences, knowledge, and expertise for how you can heal, transform, and ascend your being so that together we can create the more beautiful world we all know is possible. Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of A More Beautiful World. In today's episode, I am going to share with you my lessons from my first ayahuasca journey. Ayahuasca is also known as grandmother. And maybe you've been waiting for this episode. I know I've been waiting to record it. But ayahuasca, if you don't know, is a psychedelic plant medicine that offers immense healing. And in today's episode, which I believe is going to be part one of 2 or maybe 3 episodes, I want to share with you how I was divinely guided to this medicine, the intention that I went in with in sitting in ceremony, and also the lessons I learned from this powerful medicine. I believe one of the greatest things that we can do, that all of us can do, is share our gifts and share our medicine with others. And it was this profound journey, this first journey for me, that really helped me to recognize that. And it's also been my biggest influence for the creation of this podcast. So today, I'm excited to share with you the lessons I learned from my medicine journey as they can become part of your medicine to help you move forward and better yourself. And of course, beautify our world. Let's dive in. Before we begin, I will say up front, this medicine is not for everyone. The medicine does need to call you. Okay, the plants have spirits that we can connect with. Okay, just as we can connect with the plants and all plants, not just, plant medicines, all plants, they can connect with us. So it is important that you don't just listen to this, or maybe you've listened to other podcasts about ayahuasca and run out and force yourself to find an ayahuasca journey. That is not what this is about. It is about being called to the medicine. So I do want to say, the purpose of my sharing this with you is not to say you need to go do it. It is just to share some of the medicine of what I experienced, to pass on the wisdom and the teachings of grandmother ayahuasca. With that said, it's often said that one night with ayahuasca is like 10 years in therapy. And let me tell you, now that I have sat through just 2 retreats and 4 nights of ceremony, I can tell you that is true. There is a lot of therapy that happens in sitting with grandmother. And so ayahuasca, in the Quechua language, aya literally means soul or ancestors, and huasca means vine or rope. So you could kind of say, it's a bit of a vine or a rope, to our own soul or to our ancestors. But ultimately, it is medicine. Okay. And it's a medicine often used by individuals who are on a spiritual journey, who do want to expand their awareness, expand their mind, let go of their ego, people who are looking for deep levels of healing, and who really want to incorporate that mind, body, spirit connection on their journey. It's used by people to recover from mental illnesses, things like PTSD, depression, anxiety, and to heal many other ailments as well, including the physical ailments. And I went in to ceremony with a lot of intentions. um, Knowing, and having it been kind of in my space for a couple of years, and knowing others who have sat with the medicine and heard about their journeys, and, just digging into YouTube videos and different podcasters and different, gurus and mentors and coaches out there who have sat with the medicine. um, Everyone's a little bit different on what they go in with and what they want to experience and hope to achieve. And so again, I'm pretty intense and I really love self-development. So I went in with a lot of intentions. And I wanted to get clarity on my business. I wanted to be more connected into my purpose and deepen that connection. I wanted insights on my personal health and some of the struggles that I had been going through, and get some answers and some clarity there. I also wanted to have mystical experiences, and enjoy some of the psychedelic pieces of the medicine. I wanted to release wounds, that I'd been carrying since childhood, of not feeling like I was enough or that I was deserving enough. I also just wanted to expand my mind, in a lot of ways, and expand my ability to be compassionate and kind. And ultimately, another big one, that was my theme in first ceremony, was I really wanted to let go of my fears of abandonment and feeling so alone. So I will say, while some of that happened, and we'll get into the lessons and the blessings, there were a lot of other things that came into during my weekend retreat and ceremony nights. And also, quick note, while the ceremonies themselves are very powerful and very magical, a lot of the true work and the true healing happens in integration period, which is after you are finished with ceremony. It's going back out into the real world, integrating the medicine into your everyday life, and ultimately, making yourself a better person because of your experience. So, it is said that grandmother always gives us exactly what we need. And I really do believe that to be true in my experience. I want to set the stage for you and kind of just give you a little bit of background. Again, I think we're going to probably take this into 2 or 3 parts for my first ayahuasca journey, because there really is so much. And quite frankly, I could probably spend, 6 hours talking about it all. But I know we all have busy lives. So we're going to try to keep it to what's really important. But I want to set the stage, and I want to start with really how I got called to the medicine. So if you have listened to it already or not, I shared in a part 1 and part 2 my psilocybin ceremonies, and starting with that medicine and how it transformed my life and kind of took me from having things falling apart to having things come back together. And that was a big part of my 2020, were my psilocybin medicine ceremonies. And during that time, I was connected with 2 people very deeply who were into a lot of ayahuasca ceremonies. They were sitting in a lot of circles, and they had been deeply called to the medicine. And they had offered me to come and join them in ceremony and sit with them, but it hadn't quite called to me yet. There was still a maybe, I don't know, I'm not sure, I'm afraid, which kept me from sitting with the medicine. But it was during kind of winter, finishing up winter and heading into spring of 2021, I really started to feel the calling. I could start hearing the whispers of grandmother telling me it was time. It was time to sit, and that I needed to step up, and I needed the wisdom that she had to offer. So I started putting a few feelers out there. And it's just so funny how when you get the calling and the timing is right, things just fall into your lap. One of my dear friends who has sat with the medicine before was on a mailing list for ceremonies with a really sacred and special circle. And he got one, and it was going to take place in a pretty convenient location for me. So he forwarded me along the details, and it was just like instant connection. It was like boom, 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 like everything just fell into place and connected with this beautiful woman who was coordinating all of the ceremony. And we did a little introduction call. And again, everything just fell into alignment. Um, and I signed up to sit in my first ceremony. So with preparation, there is a lot of prep work that goes into ayahuasca. If you really want to honor the medicine, you can't just end work on a Friday and head into a ceremony Friday night. I mean, there are some who do, and that's okay. But it is a very sacred medicine, and they, the ayahuasqueros, the folks who hold the ceremonies, many of them do request that you follow la dieta, which is some dietary restrictions to get your body and mind and soul cleansed and prepared for the medicine. So, as I was getting ready for a ceremony, I followed la dieta, and there's a few interesting things that made that difficult. Like you can't have avocados, which are like one of my favorite foods. So that was a bit tough. And there are different variations of La Dieta depending on the tribe and their traditions. Um, but I'm following La Dieta. I'm getting ready to head out to ceremony, which was in the middle of the desert, in a retreat center, but kind of middle of nowhere. And here I am getting ready, mentally, spiritually, emotionally, physically, to go out in the middle of the desert with 22 other people I had never met. Some of them facilitators, some of them ayahuasqueros, and some just tribe brothers and tribe sisters going in for some deep healing. And what was really special about this ceremony and my first opportunity to sit with the medicine is it was an extra special ceremony because the two folks who were kind of putting it on and organizing the retreat, they were organizing it around some veterans and some war veterans. And so I was so honored to sit in my first circle surrounded with these extraordinary men who have served our country and who have been through a lot. And a lot of them, were dealing with their own healing, things like PTSD and anxiety and anger and stuff that a lot of us deal with, right? But it was really a special circle to be with so much camaraderie and to be with all of these brothers who were brave and courageous enough to not only serve our country, but to also, open their hearts to healing. And I think more men out there could learn from those brothers that I sat with because to open up to that healing, that level of healing, I think a lot of women get called to it more easily. And I think there is a bit of a need for more of our men to get called to open up to that healing too. Um, that was a side note. But I'm out in the desert. I'm in this beautiful, beautiful place with just a gorgeous property. It was very large. Um, it was probably on, a couple of acres, beautiful surroundings, and it had this big ceremony room. It was pretty much like a big yoga studio room. But even though it was big, it was cozy. And the way that the organizers and the ayahuasqueros set it up was just beautiful. It had a really gorgeous energy with a big kind of altar set up in the middle. And then all of us were sitting in a very large circle around the altar. And kind of at one edge of the circle, were the ayahuasqueros, which there were two men as the ayahuasqueros and their wives who were there. to also hold space and help with ceremony. And so we had this beautiful setting. And the way that it was kind of set up, it was a weekend. It was a long weekend. So you get there on a Thursday night, and Thursday night is first ceremony night. So first ceremony night was Thursday, second ceremony night was Friday, and then we would have an integration night on Saturday before heading home on Sunday. So it's Thursday. It's Thursday in April of 2021. And I get there, I settle in, and I'm kind of in this like meet and greet, space. I was almost one of the first people to get there. I was probably like the fifth or so person to get there. And again, there were 22 or 23 of us in total. Um, it had this beautiful outdoor space with like lots of couches and like lounges, and so we're all kind of like starting to group and mingle and introduce ourselves and get to know each other. And the weather was absolutely perfect, so it was really beautiful. So after a bit of that, it was time to get ready for ceremony, and ceremony starts when the sun goes down. Um, so I went in my room and put on all of my white clothing, and I got some of my crystals on, and my mala bracelets that I felt called to bring with me into ceremony. And I put on one of my necklaces. You guys who are listening can't see it, but I'm actually wearing my ceremony necklace um, that I got uh, at the ceremony. But so I get all ready for ceremony and I head into the ceremony room. And then it is time for ceremony. So, this ceremony and this circle that I sat with, the ayahuasqueros pulled from the Hunicun tribe. And they are, I believe, out of Brazil. And their tradition with ayahuasca is a lot more celebratory and light in nature. There is more invitation to move and dance. Whereas a lot of people who sit with the medicine do a more Peruvian style. There is a style from a tribe, the Shipibo tribe, and they have a style that's more in darkness and silence. And in both cases, there are the Icaros, which are the songs that help to invoke and move the medicine. Um, but again, the Shipibo is like more in the darkness. The Hunikun, we begin in the darkness. But after you take your first cup of medicine and drink your first cup, they take you into the darkness. They have the Icaros, the songs. But then after they do that, they bring in the light. So again, the Icaros are pretty much sung throughout. After we all went around and had our first cup of medicine, we did sit in probably about 30 minutes to an hour of silence in the dark as the medicine was kicking in. Before the music and the Icaros started, and then it became a party from there, which I'll tell you about. Um, because they actually in the ceremony invited other musicians to join in, and there was a lot of talent in this ceremony. So let's talk about the experience with the medicine. Again, I told you I could fill hours with this, but I want to talk a bit about the experiences because, first of all, the first night, again, ayahuasca is a psychedelic medicine, and I had some really intense visualizations kicking off with the medicine on my first night. And the visualizations that are experienced, the ones I experienced anyway, a lot of fractals and sacred geometry. And I was seeing things in, patterns of feathers and different eyes, and everything was super colorful. It was like a kaleidoscope of all of these amazing things. At one point, I was seeing like pearls and jewels, and then they like transitioned into eyes and feathers. And honestly, I've never had such intense visualizations or such an intense psychedelic experience. these psychedelic properties that I've experienced, at least with mushrooms, pale in comparison to what the visualizations were like with ayahuasca. Um, so after I kind of got in, you know, the first cup and the visualizations are going and the Icaro started and the medicine really started to move in my body. The first kind of lesson that really came in, was just I was in this feeling of some deep, deep joy and deep, deep gratitude, like these really elevated emotions that I just hadn't quite experienced up until that point in my life. And I felt like I was just being washed over with this gift of peace and comfort. And um, I was kind of confused because not only had I not had a ton of peace and joy and gratitude and comfort in my life up until that point, um, I also was surrounded with a bunch of people purging. And if you don't know much about ayahuasca, there is a lot of purging that happens to get energy out of your body, get stuck energy out. Most folks purge through their mouth, which is in the form of vomiting. A lot of folks get lucky enough to shit a lot and purge, by shitting, pooping, whatever you want to call it. Some people are even lucky to puke and shit at the same time. So there's a lot of people doing a lot of clearing around me. A lot of people purging again through their mouths. A lot of just spitting and there's moans and groans and tears, and there is just it's kind of pandemonium around me. Um, I'm really fortunate. I did not purge through my mouth, which I totally thought was going to happen. But actually, on this ceremony, I was on my menstrual cycle, and I believe my body was already purging in its own ways. So I feel like maybe I got saved from purging through my mouth too much. But more to come on purging later. So there is like so much happening around me. People look like they're suffering, they're struggling. There's purging happening everywhere. The music's going, like there's just a lot happening. And I get this message. I'm just filled with all this joy and gratitude. And I get this message. You've already done the work. Just enjoy this experience. And I was like, whew, like, okay, thank you, right? Um, it really felt so comforting to know that, at this point in my life, as I'm sitting in ceremony, I had done a lot of work. And I always feel like there's more work to be done. And my big first message from grandmother ayahuasca was like, you've done the work, girl. Just sit and enjoy tonight. Um, and so that felt really good and just really comforting and helped me stay stable as there was some chaos and pandemonium happening around me. So then they invoke the light and they light some candles and bring a little bit of candlelight in. The songs kind of change at this part in the ceremony. And this is probably at this point 2 to 3 hours in. Time is a little tricky on ayahuasca. So those are estimates. Um, but they call you up then for second cup. So to take more medicine. And I went up and I took second cup. And when I say cup, a lot of you more seasoned people out there, I did not take a full cup of medicine every time. I was more in like a third to a half cup, depending on how I was feeling. Maybe one of the cups was like a 3/4 cup, but I'm tiny and I'm very sensitive. And so, in working with the ayahuasqueros, that's what felt right for me in my journey. So when I went up for second cup, it wasn't a full cup, but I went and took more medicine. And that's when real pandemonium started breaking out because they started doing the hape ceremonies, which is a tobacco snuff that you take up your nose. And that's when the dancing begun. And that's when people were called, if they wanted to get up and to dance. Um, I honestly, after second cup, was feeling a little bit nauseous. Again, never purged, but I had some nausea brewing. But also, I had this deep heaviness that was happening in my body. Um, and I just felt very heavy in my body, and it was difficult to even move. I remember at one point I had to get up and use the bathroom. Um, and it was difficult. It was hard. It was hard to get up off my mat. Um, and I remember asking grandmother, why, why is this so difficult? Like, why is my body so heavy? And she said, it's because the medicine is working on you and we're taking care of some physical things. So just to sit still and enjoy. Um, so there is a lot going on around me. This is kind of like middle of ceremony. I'm kind of like sitting on my mat, just pretty peaceful. One of the guys the next day said I looked very stoic and just very strong as I sat with the medicine. Um, but I was having a bit of difficulty focusing on my own healing. And this is where another lesson came in. Because as I sat there in ceremony with all of these people who want to be healed, all of these people who are struggling, all of these people who just look like they need help, and maybe just need some support. I wanted to help them, right? I am a healer. I am a helper. This is what I do. And when you're in a room with people who need to be healed and who are there for healing, it's really hard when you cannot help a single one of them. And that's part of ceremony. You need to let everyone go through their own experiences and honor your own experience and be in your own medicine. So, even though I was being called to help them and I wanted to send them love and light and send them some Reiki energy, you know, we're told not to do this during ceremony. And that was really hard for me. But it did bring about the second lesson, which is that I am not here to heal and to save everyone. I am here to focus on myself. And by focusing on myself and bettering myself, that is for the greater good because we're all connected. And if you've been listening in, you can probably hear this is where the podcast was really born. Didn't know it then, happened in integration, but I realized so deeply that it was focusing on myself and my journey and raising my vibration and making improvements on myself and my healing, right? That's for the greater good of everyone. So as I sat in ceremony, I connected into that and recognized the best thing I can do for everybody in this room is to focus on my healing and identify what shit I need to let go of. Um, that was a very profound lesson. Um, so again, I'm having a pretty decent first night, pretty comfortable. I was very tired, but they did eventually, this is probably now about 6 hours into ceremony, call for third cup. And, I was on day one of my menstrual cycle during this first night of ceremony, and I was very tired, but I did get up and take third cup. I took a little bit more of the medicine because I wanted to sit with it. And, it was, I think, a good thing. It did help me get through the rest of ceremony, but again, because I was so tired, even with more medicine in my body, I had this heaviness and it was just this deep heaviness in my body. And I got a bit sad after third cup because there was this beautiful music playing. And again, these amazing artists that were there. This one man that was there, he's a musician by trade. That's his profession. And when he started singing, it was like a freaking angel had entered the room and started singing. He has a beautiful voice and is so talented and is playing the guitar. And it was just like mind blowing. Even though our ayahuasqueros were totally gifted with their music as their medicine too. But I was feeling so heavy in my physical body. It was just crazy. And I got sad because I really wanted to dance. I had a few beautiful sisters. I believe there were 5 sisters there with me and myself, and then the rest were men in ceremony. Um, and my sisters are up and they're dancing and they're wearing these gorgeous dresses and they're dancing around the altar and they're just like so much embodying their divine feminine energy. And I wanted so badly to dance with them, but I physically could not. Like, my body felt just too heavy to move. And then another lesson came in, and it was connected to my previous lesson. And that is, I was dancing. I maybe wasn't physically moving my body and dancing, but all of those women are a part of me, and I'm a part of them. So because they were dancing, I was dancing too. And that brought just so much joy and happiness into my heart. And again, it just deepened this lesson of really feeling like we're all connected, and what we do for one, we do for us all. And I knew that even though I wasn't able to move, they were moving for me. And it really just felt so powerful to be so deeply connected into that. Um So as ceremony started to wind down and I was getting more and more tired, I did have some really interesting connections into my ancestors that came in, and particularly around my dad's side of the family, because it's very small on my dad's side. At the time of this recording, it is just my dad, and I have one uncle, and then my sister, myself, and my nephew. In that lineage, my grandparents have passed away. I do not have any cousins or any other uncles or aunts on that side. And I've always been really into my ancestors and my family history. And at the end of the ceremony, I was getting a bit sad that that family line is so small. And at the time, my dad was going through radiation for prostate cancer. And I was feeling a lot of emotions around that going into ceremony. You have fears of losing your parents, and you feel their suffering, when you sit with these medicines, and when you go on your soul journeys, because you do tap into your ancestors and your ancestral line. And um, so I got some sadness that came in because whenever, at some point we're all going to go, but whenever my dad goes, I was like feeling sad that I would lose his connection, and that I would further lose the connection to my grandmother, my dad's mom, and all the gifts that she had given me. And so I started to kind of well up with a bit of sadness at the end of ceremony. And I could feel at this point I was laying down and kind of not quite weeping, but close to it. And I felt just grandmother like wash over me. Um, Probably both grandmother Ayahuasca and my grandma June come in. And I just got this message that, again, you're never going to lose this connection. This connection is always here for you. Um, and it would always be there, and I will always be connected to it. I will always be connected to my ancestors. I'm connected to all the ancestors I've never even met. And it really helped me find some peace, and just recognize that all of the time that we do have living is very precious, and it's important for us to honor, our parents, our ancestors, our elders, the people that we can connect with in this life, because one day they will be gone, and one day we'll be gone. And so it was a really beautiful message just to give myself some peace that those connections never go away. Um, so that was kind of the last message of the first night. And at the end of ceremony, as they close ceremony and close circle, we got to enjoy what everyone says is the best part of the evening, which is the soup. Because after you are fasting and a lot of people are purging and you're going through these really intense experiences, there is nothing like a good old warm bowl of soup with a little bit of bread and crackers to calm you, ground you, and just nourish you and make you feel more comfort. So it was funny. One of my brothers that I sat with, he kept mentioning, how great the soup was going to be. And boy, was he right. Man, the soup after ceremony is so good. So are other things, like watermelon and, mango, fantastic after ceremony. But after all the fasting, following La Dieta, and eating some freaking soup at 4 a.m, out in the middle of the desert after, an 8-hour ceremony, it feels fantastic, y'all. Okay. So I eat my soup. And then after that, I enjoyed some time out under the stars because where I was, the stars were so good out in the middle of nowhere. I don't get to see stars like that in Phoenix. So I enjoyed some time under the stars, saw a couple of shooting stars, which is one of my favorite things. I think they're little messages from the universe. And then I tucked into bed, got into my cozy bed, and I woke up 2 hours later to a magnificent sunrise. That was super, super cool, to wake up and see the sunrise in the desert over the mountains. Um, and then I went back to sleep for a couple of hours to get ready for day 2 of ceremony. And that is where I'm going to leave you all in this episode, because there is more to come, more lessons, more blessings. And so in the next episode, I'll continue on with part 2 of this journey, which will take me into ceremony night 2, as well as into the integration day and the integration period after retreat weekend and ceremonies. Again, honestly, I could go on for hours and hours about these experiences, and maybe someday I will. Maybe I'll do some expanded, deeper dives on these plant medicine experiences. But for now, this is the medicine that I'm being called to share with you. And the deepest message on this night of ceremony is what this podcast is all about. And that is we are all connected. And what we do for one, we do for all. And it is so important to take care of yourself and to work on bettering yourself, because everything you do for you benefits us all. Okay. All right, tribe. That's it for today. I hope you will tune in to the next episode as well. And as always, much love to you, tribe. Until next time. Hey, tribe. Thank you so much for watching. If you liked this podcast, make sure to like the video below and then click subscribe so you never miss an episode. And remember, I've got lots of free resources available to you to support your healing, transformation, and ascension so you can help in making this a more beautiful world for us all. Make sure you check them out in the description below. Thanks again for tuning in, tribe. And until next time, much love to you all.